I understand why the community is a little uncomfortable with Light Lens Lab really kind of replicating the design and the look of the Leica 35 Oppo. I get that. But I'll tell you this, the optics out of this lens, what Light Lens Lab has done here, it's pretty good. Actually, it's more than pretty good. Full disclosure, guys, I'm not paid or sponsored for this video. Light Lens Lab was very kind enough to send me a prototype of this lens. And in terms of optics, they say that the production unit will be improved over this. Now, I have been a fan of Light Lens Lab since they launched the 35-8 element lens. It paid homage to the original 35-8 element from Leica, which is no longer being made, but at a fraction of the price, and they did a great job. Then we have something like the Z21 series, where we have the 75 1.5 here. The first one was the 50 1.5, which is an homage to the Piangenu cinema lenses. Then last year, they decided to get more into the somewhat modern era of Leica, 80s and 90s, with the 35 1.4 double spherical. When I did an interview with Mr. Joe earlier this year, I believe I was the first interview on camera with him, he did showcase the 35 Oppo prototype that he said would be coming out later this year, which he did hold true to his word. And that is what I have here, another prototype, but a more later version of it. And what he did tell me in that meeting was that while the outside looks very similar, internally, not to infringe on any patents, the optical formula is different from Leica's. But according to Mac Philos's article, which I'll put a link in my description below, Light Lens Lab did admit that they can't make the elements, the spherical elements in the glass as good as Leica does in terms of the polishing and the fine tuning of those glass elements. So I think there's an advantage that Leica has over Light Lens Lab due to cost and, just technology and equipment that they have on hand that does give an edge to them. But internally, what I do know, it has 4 spherical elements, 11 rounded aperture blades on this. It does have a floating element, which I believe is different from Leica's version. It's roughly the same size on the outside of it in terms of that. Focus throw is very similar to the original 35 Oppo. It is very, very sharp, very well corrected. Colors got a nice warm tone to it. Probably very, very similar to the Leica. It's just got a beautiful image coming out of this. The one thing you have to give Leica credit for is making such a very good lens optically so small. And that's why the 35 Oppo was such a very special lens for Leica, is that how much performance they packed in such a small, compact body. This is Peter Carby saying, I'm going to give you optical perfection the best way I can out of a Leica M lens, and achieving it even better than the 50 Oppo in my personal opinion, which is another phenomenal lens. Light Lens Lab has obviously taken a lot of inspiration from that and created a lens at a fraction of the price that will give you a lot of that performance. Not exact, but a lot of that performance, and very close to the point that the average person looking at 2 images side by side may have a hard time telling the difference. Case in point, here's a photo taken of me at a local ShopRite ball here in Singapore, one with a Leica 35 Oppo, one with this lens. And if you look at both of these, I'm not going to tell you which is which. You might have a hard time seeing the difference, and I'll let you know the difference right now. The Leica has a little bit more contrast in the background, a little bit more micro contrast, a little bit more of that 3D pop. The Light Lens Lab is a little bit smoother, a little less contrast in that area, but in terms of sharpness, they're almost exactly the same, which is impressive. Very well corrected. No green, purple fringing, no onion rings, very smooth. Cat's eye looks great. Fall off, beautiful. Got a 3D pop to it in its own way. But I would say to the average viewer out there, they'll look at sharpness first and correction, and both lenses do a phenomenal job in that regard. So that brings us to the design of this lens on the outside, which has a lot of people talking. This is partially knurled from what I see, which looks great. I mean, if you look at the Leica versus this, it's very, very similar, but I believe the Leica is fully knurled, and the later version will have more of a similar look. And I understand why the community is a little uncomfortable with Light Lens Lab really kind of replicating the design and the look of the Leica 35 Oppo. And I understand both sides of it. Lenses that don't have the Leica look tend not to probably sell as well as lenses that look like Leica lenses, because look, a lot of people out there, and we have to face the reality, is that they want to have a Leica kit for less money. And if they can have something that looks like a Leica lens on their Leica body and doesn't cost them as much, they'll probably go for that, or many people would. And so I think Light Lens Lab fills a void, whereas companies like Voigtlander and Typo don't really do that. Now, Typo kind of did that with the Kasana line, but for the most part, their Samara line doesn't look anything like a Leica lens. It has its own, Alpha-Kearns-inspired design, but it's unique. Either you like it or you don't. But the Leica look, in terms of the design aesthetics, is more accepted. So I can understand why Light Lens Lab went that route. Some may say, yeah, you don't need to get the Leica, you can get the Light Lens Lab because it's going to look pretty much the same and you save money. I would say it's not the same. Let me put it in this context for you. So I don't know if you like watches or not. I'm a big fan of watches. A number of years ago, I got my first and only Rolex. I saved up money for it, saved up for a long time. And that satisfaction of walking in the boutique and buying the watch that I wanted with money that I saved, that sense of achievement, that sense of pride, that sense of accomplishment. And I think that's the same feeling a lot of people get when they walk in the Leica boutique. And there's something special about a Leica camera and a Leica lens. And maybe it's the history. Maybe it's what Leica's accomplished in photography. There's something very special about owning a piece of that. It could be an M11. It could be whatever have you. But there's something special about owning a Leica that, as good as a lens like this is, it doesn't replace. And I applaud Light Lens Lab for what they've done. I think this democratizes lenses in a lot of ways. It allows us, or many of us, that maybe will never get a chance to afford a 35 oppo lens because it's around $9,500 now. And most people watching this video may not ever have the opportunity or the funds to afford something like that. But you can get a taste of it by using this. And that's not a bad thing, but that keeps you in the Leica ecosystem, and it keeps you excited about Leica, and it keeps you inspired by what Leica's doing. And now you can say, oh, this is, it's stealing, it's not right, they shouldn't be doing this. Okay. But let me ask you this question then. How many people do you think are going to be able to afford Leica products out there? Even secondhand, still expensive. Not as many. If not as many people can afford these products, what does that mean for the usage of Leica cameras? It will drop. So these lenses, in my opinion, help build the ecosystem and help build Leica to get it out there to more people. So more people get to experience what an M rangefinder is like, or they get to understand it. These lenses are a gateway for them to go into the world of Leica when they can afford it, or if they can afford it. And if they can't, it's okay. It's okay. And for that, I think that's a good thing. And look, Leica lenses and cameras have gone up in price considerably over the last few years. Case in point, the 35 oppo, when it first launched in 2021, was $8,100. It's now $9,500. Hopefully they slow down, because that means in 4 more years from now, this lens is going to be $11,000, $12,000. And what's an Octolux going to be? So, to Light Lens Lab, you've made a phenomenal lens here. I've loved using this. I don't think I could ever afford a 35 oppo brand new right now. I've got bills to pay. I've got other things I have to take care of in life. But I'm glad I got to experience this because it's beautiful. And the few times I got to try the Leica, every time I walked away, I was like, God, one day I want to own that lens. I would love to own that lens. And even if I had this, I'd still want to own that lens one day. Light Lens Lab, you've done a great job. Anyway, guys, thank you for the support. Greatly appreciate it. Any comments you have, please put those in the comment section below, but let's keep it respectful. With that, guys, take care, and I'll chat to you all very, very soon. Bye.